Okay, good afternoon.
Good afternoon.
Um, got a few questions for you I'd like to ask. There's 12 of them listed, and we'll go through some road signs and road markings and things like that and kind of get your opinion. So first off, for everybody that's going to watch, my instructor, can you tell us about yourself and your position right now?
Sure. My name's Deputy Moore. I'm with the Linn County Sheriff's Office. I've been a deputy for almost 9 years now. Prior to that, I was a police officer for the city of Pleasanton for another 6 years. And then all in all, before that, I worked in the jail at Bourbon County. So I've been in law enforcement almost 20 years.
All right, that's quite a long time.
Yep.
So first question dealing with laws and things driving. What seems to be the most common infraction that drivers get pulled over for?
Most commonly, it is speeding. With the state of Kansas increasing their speed to 75 miles an hour on the highway, most of them still, even though 75 is way fast enough, most of them decide that they want to go faster.
Yeah,
So it's normally speeding.
speeding. All right then. That one's fairly, I don't know, obvious, but it's an easy one to identify.
Right.
Tell me one or two infractions that most drivers are unaware of, or that they didn't know about.
Probably the two most common that people seem to be unaware of is an illuminated tag light at night. Most people don't realize that they have to have a tag light on their vehicle. The second infraction would probably be not stopping when they're exiting like a parking lot that it comes out onto a roadway. Even if there's not a stop sign there, they're still required by law to stop prior to entering the roadway. And a lot of people don't realize that. They'll just look and then they'll continue on out into the roadway.
Take off. So anytime you enter a public road, you have to stop for.
If you're coming out of a parking lot, yes.
Okay. Interesting. Got a couple questions in here about road signs. And what do you think is one of the most difficult road signs for drivers to identify?
Roundabout road signs.
Roundabouts.
Individuals don't understand the concept of a roundabout. And I know roundabouts are fairly new, especially the older drivers. I've seen them going the wrong ways in roundabouts. I've seen them go by one and forget the exit, and then they'll go by the second one and forget that exit, and then I've actually seen them go around and around the circle more than once.
Yeah. And we're in a small area, so there's not many roundabouts.
No,
around.
we don't have any roundabouts right here. No, that's correct.
Are there any weird road markings that are hard to follow for drivers, or at least that you've encountered or you've stopped people for?
In our area, being a rural community, we don't have a great deal of difficulty with road markings and stuff like that. I would say one of the biggest ones for our area, especially with younger drivers, seems to be understanding the concept of the yellow lines in the center marking the do not pass areas. A lot of times the young kids, they don't seem to understand that if they have a yellow line on their side, they cannot be passing in that area.
Makes sense. Besides physical signs, along the road, and your lanes with paint and signals, are there things besides road signs and actual lanes that help drivers?
You have your speed bumps especially in your parking lot areas and stuff like that. You have your speed bumps around your school zones. You'll have some speed bumps. Your rumble strips on the side of the road. People kind of don't understand the concept of the rumble strip, meaning that if the rumble strip is there to slow them down as they're pulling off, so that they don't continue and end up off the ditch or in the ditch.
Yeah. Sort of like in a car, I'm waiting for like alarms to buzz and things like that if we start going.
Right, the rumble strips indicate to you, oh, I'm not in my lane anymore.
Right. We live in a very rural area, and I know we mentioned it a few times before. Do you have any actual stoplights in the county?
No, there's no stoplights in the county.
Okay.
We are fortunate in that respect.
How do you think our drivers in Linn County would react if we...
They would absolutely freak out. I can give you an example of just changing a stop sign. We had a situation in one of our local communities Used to be a two-way stop at a four-way intersection. They had two stop signs. They changed it to three stop signs, and the community people freaked out. They thought it was entrapment. They thought we was being ridiculous about it. It turned into a nightmare for about 6 months.
I grew up in Fort Scott, and when they put up new stop signs, I'm usually not aware of them, like, because you're just so used to going through, and I imagine that's what happened here.
Right, that's exactly what happened.
In your experience, how does alcohol or other drugs affect the driver's ability to follow road signs?
Well, alcohol and drugs, period, makes it very, very difficult to operate a moving vehicle. It seems to be that there's a lot of distractions that either are physically there or mentally there when you are distracted due to alcohol or drugs, and you do not understand the concept of operating the vehicle correctly. Another thing is that we find that when someone is under the influence of alcohol or drugs, they fail to look ahead in the roadway instead of just right in front of them. You're doing 55 miles an hour down the road, you look right directly in front of you, you don't look ahead, you veer off, and you run into like a railroad crossing bridge or something along that lines.
Okay,
So people don't focus ahead of themselves when they're impaired.
that makes sense. Yeah, looking ahead is a big part of driving and being safe.
Yes.
Do you experience drivers using modern technology, whether it's a GPS on the phone or built-in Siri, Google Maps? Are there cases that drivers get in trouble when using those things?
Modern technology. Good word to use. Yeah, all the time. It seems like we're constantly stopping people for, we'll say they're texting and driving. They'll be like, no, I'm checking my map. I'm seeing where I'm going. Whatever the excuse is, you're taking your eyes off the road.
Yeah.
And whatever your excuse is, you're not operating that vehicle safely. Yeah, modern technology is great. I understand it. I like it, but I also know that it can be a major distraction, especially for young kids.
Yeah, I know I enjoy having access to, GPS and stuff, but I did grow up too using regular maps
Right.
where you had to fold them out and everything else. So.
And you had to stop on the side of the road to actually do that. You couldn't do that while you was driving.
So, this question deals with the yellow and white lane marks on the road, and you kind of hit on that a little bit, but do you find people get confused over those?
The shadow lanes, which is the white lanes on the side that we refer to, people don't understand that when you're operating that vehicle, you have to stay between both the white line and the yellow line. A lot of times, there's been times where we made stops on people because their tires were off past the white line, and they're like, but I'm not anywhere close to the middle. Well, no, you're not, but you're also very close to that guardrail or that bridge, and people sometimes think that the yellow one's the only one that matters, the white one doesn't.
Okay, yeah, so they're aware of them, but they're just, one's more important than the other.
Exactly.
Yeah. So this is for me as I'm getting certified in driver's ed. What do you think a driver's ed instructor can do to help improve young drivers as they gain more experience and everything else? What might be a couple things you could advise me and help with?
The biggest thing that and we've touched on a couple of them, the biggest thing is for them to look ahead. Don't look immediately in front of you, but keep your eyes focused ahead of yourself. Especially in rural areas, don't just watch the road. Scan the sides of the roadways, because we have a lot of deer crossing in this county.
Right.
And they don't, it's like they have tunnel vision. Everything is in a straight line, and they don't see anything else that goes on.
Yeah.
Probably the other thing would be, and this is, young kids for some reason or another seem to have a tendency to follow too close. They like to get right up on cars and stay there, and they don't understand the reaction time it takes to stop a vehicle from when it's moving to the time frame that your mind tells your foot, hit the brake.
Yeah.
So I would say probably following too close and keeping your eyes ahead on the horizons.
Yeah, makes sense. All right, last question. And I don't see this very often unless there's an emergency, but how often do you have to use hand signals to direct traffic and do drivers today know what to do when they see an officer in the road using and directing traffic?
We do, believe it or not, we actually do a lot of that. We do that for like parades and stuff like that. We also do that for any accidents that happen out on the highway. And I know I'm gonna probably surprise you with this, but young kids seem to understand hand signals better than older people do. I've done a lot of things where, like, when our county has fairgrounds, we direct traffic in and out. I've probably been ran over more times, or close to being ran over more times, by older people than younger people, because they don't understand stop.
Right.
You know, they don't understand, okay, you can go, you know. Young kids nowadays, for the most part, seem to understand stop and go. The biggest thing is getting them to understand, if you're trying to get them to go and move, like turn, a lot of times they'll start coming and you'll be like,
Yeah.
and they'll be like,
I don't know.
I
where
want to
to
go that way. They don't understand that obviously you can't go that way because there's something going on.
Yeah, makes sense. So. All right, that's all the questions I have today, and I appreciate you taking the time to answer these and putting your input in.
No problem. If there's anything I can ever do, let me know.
All right, well, thank you, sir.
Thank you.